On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Whoracle by In Flames. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal, and we like to talk about it. And today we're going to be talking about I don't even remember what year this album came out. 1997? Sounds right.
Yes.
Album from In Flames called Whoracle.
Mm-hmm.
We were originally going to listen to a different In Flames album.
We're going to talk about Colony, which also would have been good to talk about, but
I mentioned it to you because I forgot what we were going to talk about,
right.
What you had mentioned to me in between recordings. And so I went to ask you and you're like, Colony. I was like, oh, not Whoracle. Just because I thought, the name is funny.
But that's actually a great album, too.
It's a really good album. So you're like, let's just listen to that instead. And so I did. And here we are. The thing we do need to talk about.
The elephant in the room.
Is the elephant, the Adidas tracksuit, flat cap wearing elephant in the room.
A gold chain.
With your gold chain, your too tight gold chain.
A 12-ounce bottle of vodka.
So you acquired a set of Adidas tracksuit pants.
Yes, I did.
And I mentioned to you that you needed to complete the getup.
Right.
You needed to complete the look and embrace your new life as a Russian gangster.
Hello.
Hello. So
it's me, Owen.
You showed up to the podcast recording with a matching Adidas tracksuit and a flat cap and a 12-ounce bottle of Tito's vodka. You definitely have got the Gopnik vibes, although we did mention that you need more rings.
Need more rings and a bigger chain.
Yeah, your gold chain is not big enough.
Maybe I'll keep this one and then I'll get like 2 or 3 more in increasing size.
Yeah, well, at least you need to have at least 3 because you got to be better than 2 chains. You gotta prove that you're better than 2 chains.
I don't know that I am. I mean, he seems to have made a career in music.
I don't know enough about 2 chains to extend the bit. I mean, this is like my favorite kind of joke is the one that's just like, you know what? I might as well. Let's embrace it.
Yeah.
Where did you find the flat cap, by the way?
Here's the crazy part is that I started at Target and I looked in every store in the mall. I didn't discount any store. I even went into the damn rolled up ice cream store.
Is there still a Lids in the mall?
Yeah.
There wasn't a flat cap at Lids?
There was not a flat cap at Lids. And in fact, most of the places I went, and I somebody was like, can I help you? Like, yeah, I'm looking for a flat cap. And they're like, you like this? I'm like, that is just a regular baseball cap. That is not what I'm looking for. And thank you for trying to help me. But nobody knew what the hell I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I got all the way to JC fucking Penney.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the length of the entire mall. And I walked around the whole store and I said, I'm not going to find it. And I walked through this one obscure section of the men's area and there were 2.
It's just 2 flat caps.
2 flat caps, one that was brown and one that was black.
Perfect. It's matching.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care what this costs.
But yeah, you show up and you're standing there in like the pose.
Yeah.
You got, wide legs, and your hands
folded at my waist.
Folded at your waist. It was perfect.
Like I was telling Kale, when I left the house, I thought maybe I should bring a pry bar with me to complete the. I'm glad I didn't because his neighbors were outside smoking.
It would have been awkward.
Might have been a phone call.
There appears to be a Russian gangster who has showed up at the apartment building. Maybe contact somebody. Bring an officer over here just to make sure. But that's God.
Mr. Borner, I've come here to ask about payment.
I want to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. It has expired. Walks over, starts smashing.
Oh, too bad.
Oh, too bad this is not under warranty. That's like some cyberpunk shit of like Your car's extended warranty has expired, and so the business you bought it from shows up to start breaking it. Like that's some dystopian shit right there. You just took a pull from the bottle of Tito's and you did not like it.
No.
It is paint thinner.
I see why they buy that as a mixer.
Yeah,
because you want to dilute that with something.
That is not a vodka to be enjoyed on its own.
No, that is.
I mean, most vodkas aren't.
Yeah, I mean there are some good vodkas over ice.
For sure, but not Tito's.
No, yeah.
At least not this. Maybe Tito's has a higher shelf version.
I feel even that is meant to be drank out of a bag under a bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Or while you are, squatting with your heels on the ground, enjoying a cigarette with all your buddies, listening to some hard bass.
Cheeky breaky.
listening to some really thumping bass music.
Right. One of these times we have to talk about that Russian rap metal group. What the hell's their name? I forget what they're called.
I don't remember.
They're actually very entertaining. Something about it. I mean, it's not really in my wheelhouse.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
but it's really, really good.
I think I know what you're talking about. But my brain stopped working. It's probably the vodka. Something I did want to talk about, it's completely off topic though, is there's a game that came out that I started playing that is called Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun, which is my new favorite subgenre of game. One could call it a retro shooter, but I think the term boomer shooter is so much more fun. And it was officially marketed with the term boomer shooter, which I think is just charming. But it is like in the style of Quake and Doom and like Duke Nukem 3D, a like pixel sprite, like 2.5D first person shooter.
Sure.
With like fast movement. It's all the mechanics you imagine when you think of that era of first person shooters. And it's just really polished. Runs really well, and you play as a space marine who gets sent to investigate this chaos incursion. It's technically like Space Marine 1.5, and by that I mean a sequel to the 2011 game Space Marine, which was a third-person shooter. And that one has a sequel coming out sometime this year. But Zima, don't rub your face on the microphone. Cat jumped into my lap and was like, "What's this?"
Rub.
But so there's a Space Marine 2 coming out later this year, which I'm very excited about. But Bolt Gun was a nice little way of like here's the little thing to tide you over, and it's been really fun so far. For the most part, it's like very much like a power fantasy type of game where like you're almost never at risk of running out of ammo. You've got a bunch of different guns at any given time. Like there's pretty plentiful ammo for all of them. Some sections, like you won't find any ammo for like your plasma gun and that sort of thing. But for the most part, you always have ammo for your bolter at the very least, which is really fun to use.
Would you say it's a bolt thrower?
I mean, that is what the name of the band references.
Right.
But like, and the bolter is such a fun gun to talk about too, because it's technically not a gun in the sense that a gun is usually like, oh, there you have a cartridge which has a bullet and the propellant charge in it, and the charge goes off and sends this metal slug out, and it hits something and it just hits something, and that's the end of it. The bolter is technically a fully automatic rocket propelled grenade launcher. And it's 75 caliber, and it like in the game, like in any game it's been represented in, except for like some of the old Dawn of War games, like in Dark Tide and in like the original Space Marine game and in Bolt Gun and whatnot. basically anything that's not like an enemy space marine, anything that's just like a normal person, you hit them with a bolter once and they explode.
Sure.
Because it's a rocket propelled grenade. Like they're designed to, they have little sensors in them that when it penetrates flesh, it detonates. And so like it blows people in half. And like, I love it. Like there are some games that kind of treat them just like assault rifles. But most games that do them well, like they're really bassy when they shoot and like just blowing people apart. All of the sound effects in this bolt gun game are so like, it's that classic, just awesome crunchiness that like old first person shooters had, where like all of the audio was just like crunchy and punchy and satisfying. You have kind of like the meat hook in Doom Eternal that you can use to like yank yourself around the arena towards enemies.
Cool.
You have instead you have your chain sword, which is not like a chain that you shoot out to. It's a sword that is a chainsaw. And you just, even if you're in midair, you can somehow propel yourself towards enemies to hit them with the chain sword. But who cares? It's fun.
Right.
And you have a button specifically dedicated to taunting your enemies, where your Space Marine will say shit like, "I am the Emperor's sword," or some awesome shit like that. If there's an enemy on screen, he will point at them while he says something, which is fun, especially if you're fighting like a little tiny nurgling. It's just like, why is this Space Marine so personally angry with this teeny tiny little demon? It's funny. But yeah, it's just really fun, just mindless action. Like it's not like Doom Eternal is a really, when it boils down to it, a really complicated game.
It can be, yeah.
There's a lot of different things to balance. Like it's not just a mindless shooter, especially. I mean, it is if you're playing it on like a low difficulty, but like on a higher difficulty, you really need to be thinking about every encounter. When you see an enemy on screen,
right, you
will have some sort of weapon in your arsenal that is the best to use against that enemy. And it has weak points that you need to hit. Like there's a whole like, you could make a flow chart basically.
Right.
Of course, you're not going to have time to actually like look at that flow chart while you're in the middle of combat. It just needs to become instinct of like, oh, I see a Cacodemon, time to take out the grenade launcher attachment for the shotgun, shoot a grenade into its mouth, and then go up and punch it in the face.
Right. When it starts flashing.
Like you have that checklist where the game forces you to think and like pushes you to use all the different tools in your arsenal. Bolt gun, basically the only like mechanic to the guns is some guns are stronger than others and some enemies are tougher than others. Like when you shoot, when you like have an enemy on screen in the center of your reticle, its health bar will be up on the top of the screen, and then there will be a toughness number next to the health bar. And then all of your guns have a toughness rating next to them. All your guns will do some damage, but if you want to kill that enemy quicker, you pull out one of the higher damaging weapons and use it on that instead. But yeah, it's just a really good time. Just some classic, just old ass looking. I mean, it's new, but it looks old in the best way.
I mean, is
possible?
Is it 32 or 64-bit? I mean, I
don't know.
It's not 8-bit though. You can tell it's not.
It's not 8-bit. I think it would be pretty hard to make an 8-bit first person shooter. I don't think there were any. I think even Wolfenstein was.
I think that was 8-bit. Yeah.
Was it?
It was either, well, maybe it was 16-bit, but I think it was 8-bit.
In any case,
yeah.
It's just it's a ton of fun. It's a really, really fun game. I'm juggling like 3 games right now. I'm juggling Bolt Gun.
You don't usually do.
Yeah, I usually don't go between games. Where I'm going between Bolt Gun, Dead Space Remake, and Deep Rock Galactic. Like Deep Rock Galactic is easy to kind of juggle with things because like it's a multiplayer game. But I'm still like going through Dead Space Remake for a second time. I guess just kind of like biding my time until like Bloodborne is there on the horizon, and I'm going like, I'm so hesitant to actually buy it and start playing it because that's going to be my life for like a month and a half, if not longer. Like that's what happens every time I play a FromSoft game. Yep. It's like, okay, this is going to be my life for a while.
It will be too.
And like, so yeah, I'm really hesitant to pick it up. It is a little frustrating that like, it's like every year for the last 5 years, every year there has been there's always a rumor going into like the PlayStation like showcase, like, oh, I hear this year there's going to be a next gen update for Bloodborne. They're going to do a 60 FPS update and the PC port. They're going to do it this year. I promise they're going to do it. And it never fucking happens. It's like that was over the weekend, I think, was the PlayStation showcase. And again, there was a rumor that they were going to announce a PC release for Bloodborne. They announced PC releases of a whole bunch of other fucking exclusive PlayStation games, but not Bloodborne.
Speaking of FromSoft games, have you seen any of the DLC for Elden Ring?
I have not watched any actual like clips. Did they show like a full cinematic trailer or?
No, it's been a sneak peek trailer kind of situation, but they haven't done a full cinematic one yet. But there's a lot of little hints in there.
Yeah. It's almost to the degree where like I almost don't want to like watch a trailer for it because I feel I got to a certain point in Elden Ring where I think I was probably halfway into the game where I was like, okay, I didn't ruin it for myself, but I think I cheapened my own experience by like looking up how to do stuff and where things were at. Instead of just like
exploring.
Yeah, exploring. And I did do, there's there's so much more stuff and there's so much detail that like, even if, you look up like, oh, you go here to find this, they don't tell you about all the stuff that's in between and all the stuff that you're going to run into along the way.
I'm still taking forever to play that game.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have a new policy now. Anytime I'm like, I need to scratch that itch. I make sure that if I turn the game on, I have to find at least one new site of grace and defeat at least one enemy.
There you go.
One enemy felled and one site of grace found. I don't turn off the game until that happens.
There you go.
So if all I have to do is turn on the game about 1,000 more times,
and then you'll complete the game.
Then I'll complete the game.
Perfect. Because eventually the only sites of grace that will be left will be the boss ones.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like. Because like Bloodborne is also one of the ones that I have like I have some cultural knowledge of Bloodborne and the way to fight certain bosses but like I have absolutely no idea what any of the environments look like. Other than like the first half of the game, everything is all Victorian Gothic spires and everything. Like,
but done in such a soul crushingly depressing way.
Yeah, Victorian Gothic spires. Bloodborne is a game about the horror of having to spend a night in England.
Sure.
But yeah,
in
like
1987.
Yeah, not even in the 1880s, in the 1980s.
Right.
But there are too many guns, not enough knives.
Right.
There are plenty of knives, but no, that'd be funny if like some of the the like enraged villagers or whatever that are wandering around, if they're like, "You taking a piss, Gov?
You want some of this?
Hiya. You want to fucking fight, huh? All right." Like just fucking like complete just like Cockney hooligans.
Right.
Like I thought you were supposed to be like werewolf people, but no, you're just fucking football hooligans. Say that to my face, huh?
Yeah.
But Bloodborne is like before I played the first Dark Souls, like there were like, especially in the first half of the game, there were a lot of ways to cheese certain bosses that I had just become aware of from having watched a dozen different people play Dark Souls. And everyone's just like, okay, here's what you want to do if you don't want to actually fight this guy. Like the Taurus demon, right?
Sure.
Is one of the first bosses after probably the first boss you'll encounter after you leave the tutorial area if you kind of follow the intended path. You can fight the Taurus demon on that narrow bridge, or you can turn around, run up the tower, or run up the ladder, climb up to the tower, and then do a plunging attack on top of him, and then turn around, go back up the ladder, and do it again
until he's dead.
And it will probably take like 2-3 attacks, plunging attacks, and then it'll be gone. Even though it's also really easy to dodge between his legs.
Really?
He's like, once you actually know his tricks, he's a really, really easy boss. That's a lot of like the bosses in the first half of the game are relatively easy once you pay any amount of attention to what they're doing. But like I knew that one. I knew how to cheese the Capra demon, which is probably the one that people hate the most.
Yeah.
Out of those early bosses.
Is it like a goat?
It has a goat head. It has a goat skull for a head. It has these two big cleavers. The thing people hate about that boss is the room that you fight him in. And I don't say arena, I say room. Is probably about the size of my apartment.
Really?
It's tiny. There's a bunch of fucking plants that like block your view a little bit. And he's got 2 fucking dogs in there with him. There is, however, a set of stairs on one side of the room that you can go up and get onto a little thing. And if you time your run up those stairs right, instead of following you up the stairs, the Capra demon will instead walk in front of a ledge and look up at you from underneath, and you can plunging attack him over and over again until he dies. Which is again like nobody wants to fight the Capra demon fair because it's not worth it, because he's like the room that he's in sucks so much. It's such a bad, like, it's a really, like, most of the first part of Dark Souls 1 is pretty well designed. That's like one of the worst mistakes one of the worst missteps in that first part of the game. And then the second half of the game, like probably the first quarter of that second half, like quarter 3 of the game in total. Like when you get to like Anor Londo, you're exploring around there, and you fight Ornstein and Smo, and you're like, wow, the game is really ramping up. I bet all the bosses from this point on are going to be amazing. Oh no, they ran out of money and time, and all of the bosses kind of suck. Like all of the great lords kind of suck. Like all of the main bosses that are left are not really fun to fight until you get to Gwyn, who's the final boss, and Gwyn is fine. The DLC, on the other hand, which they had, plenty more money and time, has a bunch of great bosses. Calamite is pretty damn good. Artorias is one of my favorite bosses in the series. Like, I got talking about Dark Souls there, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
And that took up a pretty big chunk of time. That tends to happen. Just the time just disappears.
So, Kale, tell us what you know about weapons of war.
Well, you see, it was 1983. We wore an onion on our belt,
which was a fashion at the time. Yeah.
I have been seeing a bunch of pictures out of Ukraine of fucking Maxim guns being used, which, if you don't know what a Maxim gun is, picture a machine gun from the First World War. That is a Maxim gun.
Wow.
They're the ones with the big water jackets on the front of the barrel. And a bunch of them are getting used because they still work. And like, as long as you keep them topped up with water, they will keep firing until all the ammunition on Earth has been consumed. Like the Vickers gun, which was the British version of the Maxim gun. There was when the British were phasing all of them out. I think in like the 60s. They were like, let's just do an experiment of shooting one of these until it breaks. And I think they had maybe a couple of minor stoppages, but they put, I think, several 100,000 rounds through one gun.
Wow.
Just keeping it topped up with water. The first thing that actually permanently broke on the gun was it stripped all of the rifling out of the barrel. It shot so many bullets, it became a smoothbore.
Wow.
Like they're also built like a brick. Like
Sure.
all of these guns are built like an absolute, like a massive piece of stone masonry. You could construct a pyramid with these things. Like they weigh a ton, but they just keep working. So some really old, probably Soviet, maybe even Imperial Russia
Wow.
inventory
They were commissioned by the Borgias.
popped up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit about weapons. You want to talk about In Flames?
Yeah.
So In Flames is a Swedish metal band. I think, kind of depending upon what period of their career you're talking about, you could maybe call them a melodic death metal band. Alternative metal is also a term that I've seen associated with them. Really, what they are is one of the exemplars of the Gothenburg sound.
Yeah.
The cleaner and more gothic of the two styles of Swedish death metal that would pop up in the 90s. The other, of course, being Stockholm sound, which defines itself on a much dirtier, nastier sort of sound with that HM2 chainsaw tone,
Right.
that I've become very fond of over the last couple of years, because it's so immediately recognizable. And like the Gothenburg sound is also very recognizable as well. And I think, like, as far as influence on other genres go, it's also probably the more influential of the two.
Sure.
Because, like, this style of music, whether it was In Flames or I think like At the Gates is mentioned in the same conversations as well. You have like the entire, like a very large number of the like metalcore bands that start out in the early 2000s or the late 90s that are basically using this sound, but adding like, breakdowns to it and that sort of thing. Like early Killswitch Engage is very, very much based on this sort of sound. Like All That Remains, like a lot of these bands that sort of pop up and start making metalcore in the generation after you have bands like Converge and like early Every Time I Die and Botch and those sorts of bands with that earlier metallic hardcore sound. You have that next generation that all seem to be guys that grew up listening to bands like In Flames.
Right. Well, of the two camps, I feel like the Gothenburg scene is more accessible. I feel like that's more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And kind of like in many ways, the sort of the progenitors of the wider melodic death metal sound. Like melodic death metal is kind of weird to me because it feels like it took off, became wildly successful and popular in the 90s and then like disappeared. Like you don't really, there's not a lot of melodic death metal bands still coming out. It feels like the vast majority of melodic death metal bands that will ever exist already exist.
Right.
People aren't making aren't putting together new melodic death metal bands.
I feel like that because there's just such a stigma with it.
Yeah.
I feel like if you would have made a melodic death metal band now, you went off and instead made a power metal band. I mean,
a power metal band with some screamed vocals, basically. And you've got like an exception. I think there's Finland is kind of the land of melodic death metal and power metal as well. Like the Finns love their theatricality in their metal, as it would seem.
Because you can't fucking tell a Finn what to do.
Exactly. They don't care.
They don't care.
while I was listening to this, there was a lot of times, especially with the vocals, I was being reminded of Insomnia. A lot, which is a Finnish melodic death metal band that I haven't listened to in a while. I was hoping that they would do another Beelzebub's album at some point, or Beelzebub's album at some point, but I don't know if I haven't kept up with that project, whether either the comic or if they're going to be making any other music.
Because I love that Beelzebub's.
That Beelzebub's album was so much better than it had any right to be. It was so much better. It was so good.
This is a goddamn comic strip.
Like it was really good. I think COVID kind of killed a lot of ambitions with that project. I think they were really preparing to do some bigger and better, like some really big things with that. And then, COVID destroyed that and kept it from happening. But I think they were going to do a tour, if I remember correctly. But we're talking about In Flames.
Sure.
So In Flames is considered to be one of the big four of the Gothenburg sound, the melodic death metal sound. I'm trying to remember. I know At the Gates is one of the other ones. There's a couple more I think that are usually mentioned. That I cannot remember. I sort of brought that up and hoped that you would know them off the top of your head.
No, I don't.
I feel like it's something that we talked about because we have talked about In Flames before.
We have.
We talked about Sounds of a Playground Fading last time, and I have no memories of that album or how I felt about it at the time that we listened to it.
I remember you said you gave it a low silver.
Yeah, I was. I think I was a little lukewarm on it.
Right.
I think it was at a point in their career that leaned a lot more towards sort of the like alternative and gothic elements of their sound.
Right.
I like this version of their sound a lot more. I think I found myself enjoying this because like when you brought up this band whenever that was last week, I think when you decided we were going to listen to them, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, you had mentioned like you might like this better than the last one, so I was kind of prepped to be like, well, let's see, but it was definitely much more in my wheelhouse. I think on this album.
But you were prepped to be skeptical.
I was prepped to be a little skeptical. I wasn't prepared to like dislike it or anything like that, because I also don't remember like strongly disliking the previous one. It's kind of Luke. I think the reason why I don't remember it at all is because I didn't have really any strong feelings about it.
Right. I'm not finding
it's not like my opinion on like Celtic Frost, where
which is your favorite band.
Yeah, I had strong feelings about that, and I do remember.
I'm gonna have to bring back one of their prior albums to because this was the album I brought into the Pandemonium. Was an experimental
one. Yeah.
So. Not their bad weird one. Because the one that followed was their bad weird one.
Oh, that wasn't even their bad weird one.
No, that was their pretty good weird one. The albums prior to that were pretty beloved.
Yeah, at some point we'll have to talk about that.
But with In Flames, there's definitely I can't remember which album it was when the shift started. They shifted away from their older sound.
Yeah.
I think it was Clayman. I think was the album where they started to sort of shift away from the standard metal. Yeah,
and start going towards sort of the more, like I said, kind of the more alternative and sort of gothic elements of their sound.
Right.
And like we've talked about, like I've mentioned this every time you've brought an album that dances around the term, like it just seems like gothic metal is just generally not my cup of tea for some reason. I don't quite know why that is.
I think I know why.
Why?
I think because somewhere secretly in the back of your mind you feel like it's mocking you
a little bit. Yeah, I think that might be it.
Yeah,
because I think it's I like on that subject. It's almost like it's it feels like it's a parody of itself,
right?
In a way where it's like this is the type of metal that people think of, or at least one of the types of metal that people think of when they just think of metal and they don't know anything about it.
Right.
They assume that this is what this is like.
Right.
The sort of the same thing. Like it's either that or they think of, a black metal band, or they think of Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or something like that. Like
or Skid Row.
They think of yes. They like either they think of something really old and like not in vogue anymore because that's their only exposure.
Or they think of In Vogue.
Yeah. What
the band In Vogue?
What kind of band are they?
They were a girl vocal harmony group from the 90s.
Oh, I see.
I'll play you some later. They were actually very good.
I believe you. So what's your history with Whoracle?
Whoracle is probably the 5th or 6th In Flames album I listened to.
Well, yeah, because I remember you saying like you're a pretty big fan of these guys, aren't you? Like they're one of your favorite bands.
So they're up there, but I'm a bad fan. I'm a terrible fan. There are bands who I've been a fan of since like 1985, 1986. And I have 3 of their albums. And my favorite band, I have 3 of their 15 albums. And those are the ones I want to listen to. Have you heard the other 12 albums? No, I have not.
I mean, I feel like I don't have any sort of a position to judge you on that really. Because when it comes to like my actual music collection, yeah, I have a lot of Mastodon albums.
Well, yeah.
But like other than that, like Converge, one of my favorite bands. I think I have 2 Converge albums, maybe 3.
When I grew up in an era where that was the only way to listen to them, though.
That's true.
See, now we was like, hey, let's listen to this album
on the phone. Yeah. And like when I was buying digital music, that was I had a pretty decent collection of albums digitally. So I guess maybe I have a little bit of a leg to stand on, but I don't think that much. Because there are also bands where like one of my favorite bands, but there will be entire sections of their discography that I avoid. Right. Like I mean, last week we were listening to Cattle Decapitation, right? Like one of my favorite death metal bands, but I think I tried to listen to one of their early albums one time and went, no.
It's not for me.
I think I tried to listen to Homivore like one time and was like, you know what? This is a little too loose and like it has nothing of what I have come to enjoy about this band. Right. So it's like practically a completely different style of music and genre because it really was. I mean, they started out as a gore grind band and developed into something a lot more sonically sophisticated. Speaking of sonic sophistication, that's the sort of thing that I tend to associate with melodic death metal. And I think this has some very, very mild, like kind of Opethy progressive metal elements to it.
There's dancey parts in here. There's parts in here you can actually dance to.
That was actually like I when I was listening to it at home, I walked into my bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and just kind of went.
You do that.
Just kind of started moving a little bit. Yeah. Just kind of shaking my shoulders a little bit and holding my arms up. Is just there's something about the beat to a couple of these songs that makes you just kind of want to move a little bit. But there's maybe it's just a Swedish thing where they're just like we have to put some moody acoustic guitar in here on occasion.
And there is, and I hadn't listened to this in a while. I forgot that he does the thing a lot.
He does. He does the.
He does the he's thing. Talking like this.
Yes, and he has a Swedish accent, so it sounds even weirder. Why can't I Phil
Anselmo?
Phil Anselmo, yeah. He does the Phil Anselmo.
Phil Anselmo or what's his name? Wall of Death arrested.
Oh, Randy
Blythe.
Randy Blythe, yeah. Or also Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch does that a lot as well.
They're going to be here this summer.
Yeah, they're going to be at the North Dakota State Fair, which I still think is just weird that they were on the radar. But I think it will be an extremely well attended show.
Yeah, it will be.
But
that's not the show I'm going to. I'm going to a show at the fair, and that's not the one.
Which one are you going to?
I'm actually going to go see T-Pain and Ludacris.
honestly, I would probably want to go see that too.
Like, it's gonna be a great show.
Like I'm not really familiar at all with like T-Pain's actual music. I just kind of know that he's genuinely a really good singer.
Yeah.
Like,
and at some point he was on a boat.
At some point he was on a boat. It was going fast. And there was a nautical theme, Pashmina Afghan there. I'm on a boat. I missed Lonely Island.
Yeah.
That was a era.
That was great.
That was I wonder, I guess he's probably just doing more movies and stuff after what was the Andy Samberg movie where it was like a Groundhog's Day thing? What was that called? It was just named after a city in California.
I don't think I saw it. Palm Springs?
Palm Springs. It's like I wonder what Andy Samberg is up to at the moment, because Brooklyn Nine-Nine has been over with for a little while. But In Flames. I didn't do a lot of prep because I made dinner late. So
sure. Yeah.
We're wandering off topic because I don't have the thing that I can hold on
crutch,
to.
Your boogie board.
I don't have my physical crutch that I can look at to help me stay on topic.
He does not have a physical crotch he can look at to stay off topic.
I have no crotch.
Yes, he is.
I am a crotchless man.
He is Ken from Ken and Barbie.
Below my ribs, it just goes straight into legs. It goes ribs, legs.
Right.
There's no pelvis in there.
Doesn't have a pelvis.
There's no pelvis.
He pees through his nipples.
What's your favorite song on the album? Why don't we do that?
I really actually like the opener. I like Jotun.
Jotun, yeah.
I also like the second song, Food with the Gods.
Food for the Gods, yeah.
Oh my God! You know what I was just doing? Did you see me? What I was just fucking doing just now?
You were looking for your glasses.
I was looking for my glasses.
He's wearing his glasses
on my face. Let's see. Let's see. Worlds Within the Margin was really good. I like that one a lot. Morphing into Primal. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, Morphing into Primal.
The riffs on that go really hard. Absolutely. I will. I went back and re-listened to that one because I listened to it. I listened to the song 3 times, listened to the album twice, but the second time through, I got to the next song after Morphing into Primal and was like, I got to go back. And listen to that one again because I think that one's really got something I like on it. And it did. It sure did.
I like that the title track is what it is.
Yeah. You kind of like
it's almost like some sort of an interlude, like let's all go to the lobby. I mean, that's sort of it's just
well, and also it's an interesting sort of thing because you expect an album with a title like Whoracle to be more irreverent, more like
and this isn't
tongue-in-cheek and like kind of edgy and funny. It's not. It's not that kind of album. And there were a lot of that kind of album being made in the late 90s. Like that was just the space of alternative metal at the time, was this really tongue-in-cheek, we're going to name the album something vulgar and like have lots of, sexual imagery in our lyrics and everything. And they didn't do that. Right. It was, and you'd really expect it with a name like Whoracle.
The Oracle of Horrors.
Yeah. The album art is also really interesting.
Yeah,
it's like some sort of snake lady. Right. I don't know if she's supposed to be like a Gorgon or something, maybe. But she doesn't have any eyes. She looks like a Doctor Who monster.
She does.
No eyes, just a big mouth with a bunch of teeth and some snakes for arms.
That's hot.
That's hot. I mean, she does have a nice. She does have a pretty swang and rack. That's not a term people use to describe boobs.
They were like bags of sand. Bags of sand. Bags of sand.
So what album? What metal do you bestow upon this album like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca?
For me, this gets a gold because It's important to me.
I will call this a high silver. I definitely like this one more than the previous one, and I think I will remember it more fondly.
The reason I like the reason I brought the reason I brought the previous one first is because it was timing for me. That album came out.
That was 2011.
Yeah, the week I lost my house.
Yeah,
and was camping under a desk. And it's like, just give me anything I can listen to make me not cry or scream or break shit.
Because everything sucks.
Everything sucks. Oh, here we go, In Flames.
Oh, hey, look at that. They're In Flames. I do think the album art of Sounds of a Playground Fading is really cool.
Yeah.
That sort of skeletal bird is really neat. So next week is an album that I'm as surprised that I want to talk about as people might be to hear that I want to talk about it. Or,
yes.
It's the latest album, came out in March from an American metalcore band called August Burns Red.
See, I'm not as surprised as you'd think I'd be, because I know about your deep Christian values.
Yes, my deep Christian values. They're kind of one of those bands who have been known since they began to be a Christian metalcore band, which is also not a thing that's out of my wheelhouse because I wear a Silent Planet hat every single day.
Right.
So they're, what's up? What are you looking? Why?
I just realized there's a whole genre of music you've never heard.
Which is?
Christian thrash.
Oh boy.
There's a lot of great Christian thrash out there.
I suppose there is. But in any case, a new album by the band, newer album, the latest one, came out in March, as I mentioned. It's called Death Below. And it seems like it's not entirely out of their wheelhouse, but they seemed to have played with their sound a little bit. I think I skipped a couple of albums of theirs. They just sort of fell off of my radar. I wasn't interested in listening to them for a while. And what I have heard from this latest album, I find has struck me in a manner that I enjoy. And was sort of unexpected. Like, it kept on popping up on my feed on Spotify. So it's like, all right, I'll listen to this a little bit. Maybe this will be my vibe right now. Because, I have a lot of fond memories of August Burns Red, but I just moved on to different stuff.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is actually what I want right now. So
cool.
We'll be talking about Death Below by August Burns Red next week.
And sometime I'll have to bring a Believer album.
Believer.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good name for a Christian thrash metal band.
Yeah.
Is Creator a Christian thrash metal?
No.
But anyway, until you hear from us.
Well, Testament might be. No, they're probably not.
Probably not.
No.
I don't think so. No, I'm thinking of Overkill. Overkill usually has a pentagram somewhere on. Isn't a pentagram a part of Overkill's logo, or am I thinking of?
It's at least one or more of their album covers. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, why don't you go ahead and check us out on social media between this week and next week? We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Just search Bronze Metalist, like the title of this podcast, and I'm sure you'll find us. Otherwise, just go ahead and subscribe to our feed on whatever service you're using to listen to us right now. And until you hear from me again, thank you very much for listening to the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.